Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a companion video. Now, what are companion videos? Well, I'm awfully glad that you asked. You see, every day on the John Campea Show, we take time to take some live questions, but we don't always have time to get around to all the live questions that get sent in. But I want to make sure those questions get answered in a video, so I gather them up and we address them here. Now, this is a little bit of a different one. This is some leftover questions from Friday's show, because there were only a few left over, so I didn't want to do a whole video just with those. And then on Monday's show, we didn't have any leftover questions, so I didn't want to use them. So today's show, Tuesday, we did have leftover questions, so I've combined them all to make one companion video here. So with that explained and out of the way, let's jump right into it. And the first question we're going to start getting caught up on today comes to us from Darth Suthius, who writes, "Hey, Mr. C, interesting box office numbers. Of the 39 $1 billion plus movies, 3 had bigger domestic than foreign. Black Panther, Rogue One, and Darth. You know what, Darth Suthius, I think you sent that in on another show. I think you might have sent that in on a weekend show as well, but maybe since it didn't get addressed on the Friday show, you came back and did it again. That is a really fascinating think about that. 39 $1+ billion films, only 3 of them. And I guess we shouldn't be surprised that there's a majority, but still that much of a minority, only 3 of them had bigger domestic box office than the rest of the worldwide combined, Black Panther, Rogue One, and Dark Knight. I think that's really interesting trivia. Thanks for sharing that, Darth. All right, Orlando Orego writes, "I am worried about Godzilla box office. We will see once critics have seen it." Yeah, so for those of you who don't know what Orlando's talking about, we did a story on this on the John Campea Show the other day about how the early projections right now for Godzilla King of the Monsters is 55 million. And quite frankly, that's significantly lower than I thought it would be at, because the buzz has been really great. The trailers have been fantastic. They dropped their first trailer at Comic-Con this past July, and it's been nothing but great stuff ever since. I think it's going to come in higher than that. I certainly hope it comes in higher, because if it does come in at 55, that'll by far be the lowest out of the 3 monster films so far. The first Godzilla had much bigger. Kong Skull Island had much bigger. I hope Godzilla King of the Monsters can do better. And you're right, once we start seeing the critic reviews come out, hopefully that projection will start to go up. James Boner writes, "I, for one, am excited as hell for Godzilla King of the Monsters." Me too, buddy. So yeah, 55 million opening is a bit bothersome. I agree. And you know, Robert Meyer Burnett has seen it. He loves it. He's just gushed about it. Everybody I'm seeing online who has seen it is gushing about it. Here's hoping those numbers go up. All right, Santez Henderson writes, "I need Godzilla to be successful." Look, I want every good film to be successful. And Godzilla looks great. The people who've seen it are saying great things. I really hope that motivates enough people to get out there and see it again, because if it's that good, it deserves the support, and let's see how that all goes. All right, Sasuke Kuchiya writes, "We all know the Rat is the real MVP." Of course, talking about the Rat. Now, a lot of people give Avengers Endgame a hard time because ultimately everything was saved by the Rat, because the Rat hits the button that gets Scott out of the quantum realm, which puts the entire events of the movie into motion. But like I said before, was that a lucky break? Yes. But every hero needs at least 1 or 2 lucky breaks. Even in sports, right? Even the most dominant teams once in a while need a lucky break, and that was the Avengers' lucky break, was that Rat. The Rat was the MVP. K Major writes, "They let Banner use his strongest muscle, his brain. I personally was okay, I guess, with it, but I would have loved to see him smash up some goons instead." Yeah, look, I admire that the Russo brothers chose to do something different with Hulk. But at the same time, it's the Hulk. How do you have 2 movies in a row with the Hulk and not give him any action scenes other than the very opening of Infinity War, where they used him to job to Thanos? And I'm okay that they used him to job to Thanos. That's fine. But Thor jobbed to Thanos, but he also had great action scenes later. Hulk, you had 2 films with the Hulk. The ultimate monster. The fact that Tony Stark had to say, "There ice up their sleeve, we have a Hulk." And then the Russo brothers don't even use him. I admire that they did something different. I even like some of the stuff they did with him. I just wish they had done more with him. That's all. I just wish they did more. All right, Chris Listenfeld writes, "Release the Hulk cut of Endgame. Release the Snyder cut of Avengers Endgame," because I'm sure that one has Hulk in it. That's a nice one, Chris. All right, Chocolate Thunder writes, Your 2 to 5 MCU are Russo movies. Oh, in my top 5. Yes, they are. The quality of their movies goes in release order. The enjoyment value, F yeah moments, goes in reverse release order. I guess so, in a way. But, you know, you got to remember, every movie that's made in the MCU is built on the shoulders of the filmmakers that come before it. The Russo brothers got to walk in and build movies where other directors did a lot of the heavy lifting of creating these characters, setting up their mythologies, giving them backgrounds, giving them personalities and all that kind of stuff. And with all that work done, the Russos were able to then come in and just build on that. And it's what they did is magnificent, but I think you really got to look at the filmmakers of the MCU as a whole, more than just the Russo brothers or Whedon or whatever. It's really a collective effort, all under Kevin Feige, of course. Dirk Walker writes, the Hulk from the original Avengers movie had more action in Endgame than the Hulk from... I heard somebody else mention that once. It's a great observation. So when they go back to New York, we see the Hulk from the original Avengers movie running around, and he had more action than the present day Hulk who went to the past did in the entire set of 2 movies. That's a good observation, Dirk, and it's really unfortunate that's the case. Again, I like what they did with Hulk. I just wish they did more with Hulk. That's the only thing. Alan Gonzalez writes, I think Tony will be in Far From Home in a hologram form. I doubt it. I doubt they're going to pay Robert Downey Jr. to make an appearance like that. And if they were going to pay that money, I think they would have used it in a trailer. I mean, and who knows? We still have a couple of months till the movie comes out. Maybe they still will put out another trailer where maybe we do see Tony. But at this point, I'll doubt it. But it's not impossible. It's not impossible, Alan. Manny Garcia writes, hey, John, honest question. You say you don't like the MCU's fake deaths. How do you feel about Supernatural's fake deaths? Well, here's the thing. Supernatural has now had... Because the MCU's had 22 films. Supernatural has had, say, 20 times 14, 280, almost 300 episodes. If you try to compare MCU fake death to episode ratio, it's about 20 times bigger than Supernatural's. And Supernatural, there is literally a built-in device about their death and returns that God actually keeps bringing them back. There's a different set of rules with Supernatural because they have built a different set of rules for their universe. So like the boys die, they know God is literally bringing them back. So there's that. Then there's the whole Dean escape from hell thing. That's the one time they literally broke the rule with Dean. So I think they've done the fake death thing with Supernatural. Again, almost 300 installments of that. Probably on a 1 to every 50, maybe 1 to every 50 episodes. Whereas the MCU does about 5 for every 1, especially if you consider that all the people who died in Infinity War have been brought back. So it's a different universe with a different set of rules that they've applied to it. So it's really a completely different story. And again, I don't mind. A fake death can be a very good, effective tool to use in a story. The problem with the MCU is that they've done it over and 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 over again. And that's where it kind of becomes a big criticism, where you take a thing like Supernatural, yeah, maybe once every 40 or 50 episodes, they do something like that. But even then, their universe has a different set of rules because God literally comes in and brings the boys back. I mean, at least that's happened once or twice. So yeah, it's a totally different scenario. You can't really compare the two. Preppy Guy 1125 writes, hey, John, Endgame battle was that new War Machine armor. I don't know. I don't know if it was. The funny thing is when Rhodey comes up to Tony at the end when Tony's dying, it looks like he's wearing Iron Man colored War Machine armor. But earlier in the fight, I don't remember it being that color. I mean, I might have been missing something. I've seen the movie 4 times, and I keep getting stunned by that at the end. Like when he's there talking to Tony, he approaches Tony as Tony is dying, and I see the color of his armor. I go, was that the color of his armor earlier? And I can never remember. So I don't know. It's a good question. Emmanuel Ericart writes, thoughts on 2 times Oscar winner and good Argentinian boy Gustavo Santaolalla Didn't he do Babel? Anyway, also composer of the Last of Us soundtrack. Oh, I didn't know that. Great songs to relax to. All I know about him, honestly, is I remember a number of years ago, and I think Babel was one of them. I remember he won the Academy Award for Best Composer back-to-back. I think Babel was one of them. I might be wrong about that, but even if I'm right, I don't remember what the other one was. Other than that, I'm not really familiar with, like, I couldn't tell you what else he's done, to be honest with you. I just know that he pulled off the very rare feat of winning back-to-back Oscars, which is pretty damn impressive for anybody. Jabin Carter writes, will we see Morgan Stark in future MCU movies? I would say no, probably not. But remember, they did shoot a scene for Endgame with an older version of Morgan talking to Tony after he does the snap, a future version of Morgan who's older now. They may have done that knowing that they had a plan to use her later on, so I'm going to guess no, but it's certainly feasible. It is absolutely feasible at this point. Jeff Nutston writes, hey, John, just wanted to let you know that we have a Tim Hortons up here in Seattle. What? I'm surprised Robert hasn't said anything. Maybe he just didn't know. Well, remember, Robert hasn't lived there for a while. So maybe, when did it pop up there? Tim Hortons is the greatest donut and coffee shop in the world. I don't drink coffee, but everybody just kind of says Tim Hortons is the greatest coffee in the world. I don't drink coffee myself, so I can't attest to that. But I do know that the best donuts in the world, the Tim Hortons Boston Cream Donut, best donut I've ever had, still my favorite. And again, Jeff, well, thanks for the info. Now I might go up to Seattle more often, but maybe it is just, maybe they came in after Robert moved out of Seattle and he just doesn't know about it now. It's a good question, though. The Hero writes, hey, Ellen released a Far From Home clip. It said, our Earth is 616, Mysterio's is 833, described as having similarity level 4 as his world. Thoughts? We talked about this actually on the show a number of days ago. This was actually one of our main topics that we discussed. There are a lot of people like Robert, for example, who thinks that's just part of Mysterio's lie. A lot of people think Mysterio is pulling a con, that there is no multiverse really, although other MCU stuff seems to suggest there is, but he's not even from the multiverse, that this is just a part of his con, blah, 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 blah. I just think the multiverse stuff they set up in the MCU, I think, is dumb and stupid and lazy. I really do. I think time travel and multiverse is the ultimate bottom of the barrel. We can't think of anything else, so let's go to the bottom of the barrel and pull out time travel and multiverse nonsense. So, yeah, but hey, look, I don't like time travel, but some filmmakers have taken time travel, Star Trek, Voyage Home, Back to the Future, and a few others. Some filmmakers take those bottom of the barrel concepts and make gold out of them. And maybe that's what the MCU does. But I gotta tell you, I'm not a fan of using time travel and multiverse stuff. It's the ultimate lazy man storytelling device to me, but hey, maybe they can make something great out of it. We'll have to wait and see. K Major writes, I think people are confusing the difference between multiverse and timeline. Maybe, except I don't think the Russo brothers have a strong definition. I don't think they really care about the distinction either. I think they'll probably differentiate that distinction a little bit more as we move forward. Keith Gilmore writes, what did Cap do with Mjolnir at the end of Endgame? I have no idea, and see, that's the problem. Number one, he's supposed to go back and return everything exactly in the place and time that it was taken. Two big problems right away. Number one, nobody knows where the Soul Stone was. Thanos never knew where it was. Hawkeye never knew where it was. Both of them just made the sacrifice and then woke up in the middle of a shallow lake and they're holding it in their hand. They have no idea where it was or where to put it back. There's that. Number two, they had no idea where to put Mjolnir back. Because Thor just stood out a window and reached out his hand hoping that Mjolnir would be there and fly to his hand. No idea where to put that thing back. So that's just another couple of story problems there. So I don't know where he put it back, but they didn't worry about it. Leo Milmet writes, over under 45%, Toy Story 4's box office plus Frozen 2's box office is greater than Endgame's box office. I'll take over 45% on that. Like, I'm not taking 60%. I'm not taking 70%. But I think both of those films are billion-dollar plus films. So I think there's a shot. So I'll go over 45%. Again, I'm not taking 60, but I'll take over on the 45 on that. Seer Ivan Bennett writes, also, Hulk lifted the building off Rhodey and Rocket. No, he didn't. He just held it. And that's cool, but that's hardly an action sequence. Like, that's the same kind of nonsense that Superman did in Superman Returns. No action, but he lifted a lot of stuff. So Hulk was just there. I mean, they could have said, like, all the other Avengers just happened to be in places where nothing was falling on them. They could have just said the same thing for Rhodey and Rocket, but just for a plot hook, they said, no, this would have collapsed on them, but good thing Hulk's there and he'll just hold it up. So he didn't lift anything off them. He's just standing there holding it up. And then Ant-Man gets down there, turns giant, and lifts the whole thing up. So even that wasn't a nice little... Even that wasn't an action thing for Hulk, unfortunately. All right, Jack Richards writes, have any of you had a chance to watch Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix? It's an anthology series that I really think you and Rob would like. Rob has seen it, and I think he said he digs it. I just remember I haven't seen it because I have no desire to see it. I saw the promo for it, and I thought the promo was idiotic. Actually, a lot of people thought the promo was idiotic, but then some people watched it and said, actually, it's pretty good. My buddy Soul actually has seen it, and he says it's pretty good. Rob says it's pretty good. I just have no desire to watch it just because the promo looks so stupid. So maybe it's good, but I'm sure there are a few good things I don't check out because it doesn't appeal to me. So I probably won't watch it, but I know Rob has said he's seen it, and I believe he digs it quite a bit. All right. Manny Garcia writes, are you going to the Game of Thrones concert at the Hollywood Bowl? Nah, probably not. I generally go to the Star Wars ones, so I don't think so. I never say never. Maybe I will, but right now I have no plans to go to that. Heston Roberts writes, Comcast sells Hulu's stake to Disney for $5 billion. Thoughts? Interesting. I'm not quite sure what the motivation there was. Disney already had a controlling interest in the company. So there's got to be more to it. We're going to talk about this topic a little bit more on the John Campea Show tomorrow. T. Nguyen writes, Game of Thrones feels so rushed and hurting character development. Disagree. Well, though I will say it feels a little rushed because they did a 6-episode season. But I said 2 years ago, when they announced that season 7 would only be 7 episodes and season 8 would just be 6, I said, WTF, like what? Why? It's not like you're a hurting show. You're the biggest show on television. Why can't you do a full, proper season for these things? And one of the consequences is a few things are feeling rushed. Character development is not a problem. The character development, drama, all that kind of stuff has been perfect, has been absolutely perfect and wonderful and magnificent. But I agree with the rush thing. Literally, between season 7 and season 8, there should be at least 7 more episodes combined. If you put season 7 and 8 together, we should be getting 7 more episodes. Instead, they cut out 7 episodes, and it does feel like they're jumping a little quick. Even the things I love that they're doing, I feel like they're skipping some steps for time's sake to get to them, and that is a little bit unfortunate. But the season's been brilliant, in my opinion. The season's been absolutely brilliant. Michael Bradley writes, hey, John, your take on Game of Thrones that some people don't like the turn because it's not what they want the character to be Sunday night was brilliant. Well, and remember, what I do not like is people making excuses for why other people don't feel the same way they do. So when I say, believe me when I tell you, when I say there are people out there who just don't like what Game of Thrones is doing this season because they're not doing what they want, I am literally saying that based on people explicitly telling me that. Like, I'm not putting words in other people's mouths. These are those people saying directly they should have done this with the character. And so I'm not making an excuse for them. I'm just saying these people are themselves saying that, Game of Thrones isn't doing what they thought should have been done, and that's why they don't like it. So I'm not putting an excuse in anybody's mouth. That's what they are telling me directly. So that's all I have that to go on. Look, there's a bunch of people, all this stuff is subjective, right? Movies, television shows, whatever. There are plenty of people who don't like this season of Game of Thrones because it's not working for them. Totally legit, nothing wrong with that. Just like there's nothing wrong with me watching it and actually really liking it. Nothing wrong with it at all. But I do poke a little bit of fun at the people who tell me that the reason they don't like it is because it's not doing what they thought. Oh, Cersei should have done this at her end. Oh, Jaime should have had this as his ending. It's like, so basically you're mad because they didn't do what you thought they should have done. And that I will poke fun at. No poking fun at anybody who watched it and just didn't work for them, because that's entertainment, man. That happens to me. That happens to you. That happens to everybody. But yeah, I will poke a little bit of fun at that, but it's all in good fun. It's all in good nature. The Darman writes, Endgame would have to fall behind Infinity War in just raw grosses, not percentage drops, even without China from here on out, not to catch Avatar. Not happening. Believe me, dude, it's possible. That's why Box Office Mojo is even saying it's going to be tight. because the rate of decline international is even faster than the rate of decline domestic. So that poses a problem. That poses a problem. Now, again, if I had to put money on it, I put $5 on it. I still say Endgame is going to catch Avatar. It's not going to catch The Force Awakens now for the domestic box office record. I think that much is pretty clear. It's still possible, but I think it's unlikely at this point. But I do still think it's going to catch Avatar. But believe me, there's still some people saying it's going to be easy. The industry experts are now saying, ooh, it's actually going to be tight. And I think it will be tight, but I think it'll get over the finish line. I think it'll get there. Anthony R. writes, Ant-Man 3, Honey, I Shrunk the Avengers. I made a joke earlier today on the John Campea Show because we were talking about how they're rebooting Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And I made a joke, what if they found out that Rick Moranis' character back in the late 80s was friends with Hank Pym, because remember, they're both owned by Disney now, was actually friends with Hank Pym, and the Rick Moranis character helped Hank Pym create the Pym particles. It's all created in one big shared cinematic universe. Obviously, I'm joking, but that's funny. Connor Bradley writes, which director do you imagine would have a suitable vision for a retelling of Disney's Peter Pan? Also, thank you for all you do for making my day each day. Well, thank you so much, Connor. But honestly, buddy, which actor should play X role and which director should direct X movie, my answer to that is always, I don't care. I really don't care. Any director who's talented could make a good Disney's Peter Pan movie. Any director, any talented storyteller could make a good Peter Pan movie. So all I would care about is, do you get a good, talented director? That's all I care. It doesn't have to be a big major name. Doesn't have to be a small name. It can be a big name if you want. All I care about is, are they a gifted storyteller? Period. End of sentence. You know, a great example of that is, I was talking to Kevin Feige when I had him and James Gunn and Chris Pratt, and I was asking, I've been a big James Gunn fan for a while because of Slither and things like that, but he'd always done like really smaller kind of fare. And I remember saying to Kevin Feige, and I said, what was it about James Gunn, this guy who has never had any big tentpole experience, he's never had a huge budget experience, he's never done a comic book movie per se, not like this at any rate. I think there was Super, but, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, none of that matters. We just knew he knew how to tell a good story, and that's all that mattered. And he was right. So when it comes to which director could do it, any director that's talented, honestly, and that's just my honest answer, any director that's talented. All right, Boomer Bust writes, Endgame never said if Quantum Realm saved Lang from the snap. No, it never did, but it never had to, in my opinion. Like, look, in my opinion, the odds are, considering at the end of Ant-Man 2, you had Hank, you had, I keep forgetting her name, but his girlfriend, you had Scott, you had his girlfriend, Hope, I think her name is. Anyway, you had Hank and Hank's wife. So there's 4 people there. Odds are, because half the universe has disappeared, odds were 2 of them should have survived, but 3 of them got snapped. So odds are, the math is good that that Scott was going to survive the snap anyway. So I don't know if it was the Quantum Realm that saved him or if just the odds saved him, because the odds were in his favor at that point. If 3 other people got dusted, odds are he probably wouldn't have gotten dusted, right? So no idea which one it was, but I never really thought too much about it. It's an interesting point, Boom. All right, Ryan Lohner writes, just started Doom Patrol. I love this show so much. Could do without the hippier than thou narration, trying way too hard to be Deadpool, but otherwise very promising. Dude, I disagree. I think Mr. Nobody's narration is very different from Deadpool's. And let's not pretend Deadpool made up narration in a movie. Let's not go there. Let's not pretend that. Let's not pretend that Deadpool has cornered the market on having, wisecracking narration in a movie. That's been done 100 times. But I also think that Mr. Nobody stuff as the villain narrating the story, I think that's very different, and I actually kind of really like it, right? I'll be honest with you. I mean, it doesn't work for you, and that's cool, but I got to admit, it really does work for me. Man, I just still can't believe, I had no intention of watching that show. I had no intention of watching Doom Patrol. Then a bunch of you guys convinced me to check it out, and I'm so glad you did, because I just freaking love this show now. Anyway, Ryan Lohner writes, what toner do you need for your butt printer? I'll be honest with you, dude. I don't know that reference. I'm froze on that one. I don't know that one. Sorry about that. Ryan R. writes, I love John Williams, but everyone forgets Jerry Goldsmith, the Star Trek dude. Such a phenomenal composer in his day, and he gave us the iconic Star Trek movie theme. No, that's true. Look, let's not let's cut to the chase here. There are many iconic, wonderful, glorious composers in the history of Hollywood. But there's very, very, very few whose names the average film fan will recognize. Much like there's many gifted genius cinematographers, but the average film fan will only know, like, I don't know what, Deakins? They'll only know like a couple of names, right? So forget, and John Williams is on a different level. When you look at the work he's created, like from Indiana Jones to Superman, Jurassic Park, Star Wars, I mean, on and on, Harry Potter, like it just keeps going. The list just keeps running and running and running and running and running. Unfortunately, that means we overlook some other people, but because the average film fan doesn't really know many names other than actors, a lot of people would probably overlook Goldsmith anyway, but that is a shame. You're absolutely right, man. That is a shame. All right. Where are we at here? Momo Taro 2488 writes, I would love to see a remake of The Page Master. Oh my God. I think you may get a prize here, Momo Taro, for being the first person ever to bring up Page Master on my thing. But you know, okay, all joking aside, you do a retelling of that with a more modern sensibility, underlie the narration, or not the narration, but the narrative a little bit better. There's possibilities there for a winner today, I think. I mean, all joking aside of the fact that nobody's ever brought this up before, I think there's a possibility you could do something interesting there. So I don't think that'll ever happen, but if they did, I think it's got some possibilities. All right, Dim-Sum05 writes, regarding 1 billion is a disappointment. Boo birds, as Steve Rogers said in the first Avengers, you, the MCU, start running and they'll never let you stop. I mean, that's true. You cannot let the audience tell you what you're doing. You cannot let the audience tell you what to do. And because that's when horrible, horrible decisions get made. So, I mean, it's true. And it's just so funny that if by some stretch of the imagination, Endgame does not catch Avatar, which it might not, probably will, but it might not. If it doesn't, I can just see it now, though. There are going to be people going, oh, what went wrong? Boy, Endgame really failed because it didn't become the #1 all-time box office movie in history. You just know they're going to come out, Dim Sum. You just know they're going to come out. Ben Burnside writes, just finished season 1 of Sopranos. Oh, good on you, man. And holy, that was intense. Honestly, the best scene to me were the interactions between Tony and his psychiatrist. And that scene between Tony and his therapist actually was kind of the foundation for a lot of movies and TV shows that have done stuff like that since, including Lucifer, a show that I'm loving right now. That's a direct reference or influence. Because remember, one of the hallmarks of the Lucifer show is Lucifer talking to his therapist. That was directly influenced by The Sopranos. I mean, it was really, I'm not going to say it was never done before, but it was very unusual at the time. And a different type of storytelling, a different type of narration, if you will, device by using the conversation between our antagonist, or a protagonist, I should say, and their therapist. And that was really unique at the time. And it just gets better. The show just gets better. I'm really kind of jealous that you're getting to watch that now for the first time. Ben then writes, where do you think Sir Davos will end up on Game of Thrones? Wherever Jon Snow is, I think Sir Davos is going to be. I think he is, at this point, completely loyal to Jon Snow. So wherever Jon Snow is, that's where I think Davos is going to be. He's been one of my favorite side characters in this entire show. I love his story. Talanai Tanilu writes, Gladiator is my favorite film of all time. Hey, that's not a bad one to have. It's not in my top 10. It may very well be in my top 20 of all time, though. Gladiator is magnificent. It's funny because we were just talking about Gladiator. We've got our podcast, Best Movie, Worst Movie, that me, Robert, and Cody Miller do. And we were talking about the best Oscar winners of the 2000s. And Gladiator came up a few times. It is a magnificent movie. Can't be talked about enough. I'm glad you like it that much. Simple writes, my local cinema still has full Endgame screenings. Well, of course it does. I mean, the movie domestically made $65 million this past weekend. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, I went to a screening of Long Shot that made no money but the screening I was in was packed. So there's going to be packed out screenings, even with smaller movies around. So, and listen, next weekend, Endgame's going to make almost $30 million. So that means there's going to be some other theaters that are packed too, right? So they're still going to be there, but that doesn't mean it's making hundreds of $millions, unfortunately, at this point. All right, where are we at here? Darth Suthius writes, "Hey guys, the White House Reception Committee greeted the prime rib roast..." Oh, I know this from. "The White House Reception Committee greeted the prime rib roast minister, and I do the cha-cha like a sissy girl. I like a do da cha-cha." That is from, like, some people say that is the scene that made Steve Carell's career. It's Steve Carell's shining moment in Bruce Almighty with Jim Carrey, where Steve Carell's the news anchorman and Jim Carrey, who has the powers of God now, is messing with them. A lot of people say that is the single scene that the reason Steve Carell is a household name today is because of that scene. It's hilarious. Still one of the funniest things out of that entire era of movies. Darth Suthius writes, "I'm sure Doctor Strange can open up a portal to Pandora. The Avengers fighting alongside the Na'vi. There you go. $3, $4, $5 billion movie right there." I think that would, yep, you do the Avengers meet Avatar. Now, of course, the problem is that Avatar takes place several centuries in the future, so they'd have to, and then any portal to that timeline just creates a different timeline, and blah, 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 and all the mess and nonsense that Endgame created with all that. But yep, $3 billion film, $4 billion film maybe, just like that. Good idea, Darth. You should copyright that. All right. And the final question today comes to us from 17 Goop, who writes, "Tony didn't yell in agony with Infinity Stones because he only used a small amount of power to kill Thanos's army versus Hulk, who fixed half the universe." No. See, even before just putting on the gauntlet, remember? Just putting on the gauntlet dropped Hulk to his knees. "Ah, no, I'm okay." Ah. That was all before he ever did a snap. If that was doing that to Hulk, Tony should have been dead instantly. Tony should have never even been able to put it on. Let's just be honest here. He never should have been able to put it on. And then some people, I'm sure, are rushing to make an excuse. Well, his armor did that. His armor is a antiquated, ancient relic of Dark Ages technology compared to most of the universe, which is millennia ahead of us. It's a piece of tinkering little, it's a toy compared to these gems that hold the power of creation and reality and everything and all that kind of stuff. They would have made, the moment he put it on, his entire suit would have disintegrated and he would have died instantly. If the Incredible Hulk puts it on and it drives him to his knees, screaming in agony, then the moment Tony put that on his hand, it should have dusted him. It just should have killed him right away. I remember, that was all before the snap happened. It was all before the snap happened. So, and then the snap happened, and rightfully so, the snap killed Tony. But it should have killed him a lot faster, and he shouldn't have even been able to wear it. And again, I'm just saying, I don't need that movie to abide by our real world set of physics. All I ask movies to do is to abide by their own rules of set physics. And if you're saying the Hulk puts that thing on, if you're going to tell us that in this universe, Hulk putting on that gauntlet is almost enough to kill him and drive him crazy and make him writhe in agony and pain to the point that he drops to his knees and Thor's going, take it off. And he's like, no, I'm okay. And then he's finally able to do the snap. If that's doing that to the Hulk, forget Tony. He's done. Don't give me any excuse about his backward little Dark Ages technology compared to the rest of the universe of his little Iron Man suit. His Iron Man suit just would have popped into a million pieces and he would have been dead. That's the rules they set up by having Hulk in agony wearing it. But whatever. The payoff was beautiful. And I wouldn't trade that massive logic flop. I wouldn't trade that if it meant we had to lose the payoff we got, because the payoff was magnificent. And I'm like, okay, I can live with that. I can live with the fact that Tony somehow was able to put on the gauntlet and talk to Thanos, I am Iron Man, like handling it better than the Hulk was handling it. Fine, I'll live with that. to have that moment, because that moment was so freaking good and everybody cheered and it's great and it's just one of the more wonderful moments we've had in the MCU. So I'll take it. All right, guys. That will do it for this installment of the companion videos. We are now all caught up, but we'll have a bunch more stuff to talk about tomorrow. Actually, we're already working on a bunch of great stories, including and not limited to that whole thing about Hulu that was brought up a little bit earlier. Disney taking controlling interest in that. Bob Iger has confirmed what I reported to you guys last week. Remember, I was the first one to report to you guys last week that the 2022, 2024, and 2026 Star Wars films, they're just Benioff and Weiss movies. Bob Iger confirmed that later today. We're going to talk about that a little bit. John Wick is now being projected to beat Endgame next weekend. We're going to talk about that. A few other stories we're working on for tomorrow's John Campea Show. Make sure you come back, join me, Ashley, and Rob for that. Thank you guys for being here and sending in all these questions. Not just because you give us great and fun topics to talk about, but because when you send in these questions, you're actually supporting the channel, and I really am grateful for that. Thank you. All right, guys, that will do it for me for now. Thanks a lot for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.